You are listening to the Hey Kids Comics Radio Show, broadcast through the facilities of Trent Radio on 92.7 CFFF-FM in Peterborough, Canada.
Hey kids!
Look, up in the sky! It's a bird!
It's a plane!
It's dance off, bro! Me and you!
Hello and welcome to Hey Kids Comics. I'm Dan Collins.
Hey there, this is Martin Bruda.
Chris Gilpin.
I'm Adam Bishop.
I'm Chris Ellis.
I'm the Hey Kids Comics Desperado.
I'm Batman.
Who's a villain in Captain Canuck? What does he do? Taking our maple syrup, eh?
I'm gonna chuck my hockey puck in my beer bottle at you. Take off, you hoser.
Gwenpool. I mean, Spider-Gwen, the whole heat and stuff. This is gonna be worth a few bucks. And nobody wanted it.
The biggest bane to my existence right now is S.H.I.E.L.D. number 9.
When you're trying to come up with an offensive movie that you want to reclaim, it's time to segue into the next porn comic segment, Adam.
How can you not have seen Airplane? What are you guys, young?
I talked to him directly, so I got a mass order. So I have like a good 5-inch stack inside my comic box.
Yeah, right on.
That's below average.
Hulk! Smash!
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hey Kids Comics Radio Show. I am one of the boneheads that decided to be here today, Martin Bruda. And with me are...
Chris Gilpin.
And Chris Ellis.
You'll have to excuse me as I open my dried mango from Costco. How's everybody doing today?
Doing pretty good.
Yeah, not bad. Just finished watching the first 3 episodes of Why the Last Man.
Well, yeah, that did start, didn't it?
Yeah, pretty good. It was good. I like it so far. Yeah.
Is it live action?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, yeah.
What's it playing on?
That's a great question.
Arr, Billy, we don't ask those kind of questions around Chris. Arr.
Yeah. TV series.
I think it's on FX in the States. I'm not sure if it's
on FX.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was just wondering if it was something I could get on Netflix or whether I have to go to YouTube or something to watch them.
Yeah, FX on Hulu.
On Hulu.
Well, Hulu is in Canada. That's the Disney Plus Star.
Oh, okay.
So it might not be there because there might be like a conflicting agreement with Bell or Rogers for something else. But most of the time, the Hulu content appears on Disney Plus Star.
Very cool.
Up here, if I recall correctly, which I almost never do. Really. So this week, we decided we were going to take a retrospective look at the amazing 1990s phenomenon known as Image Comics.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
We were all there. We were all there in the ground floor.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So this is the deal. So my friend Scott was collecting in the 91, 92, and he kept trying to get me to go. And at that time, Ted had Big League Comics, and it was still in Charlotte Mews. And so he's like, you got to come down and check this shop out. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. And so I was like, yeah, I'll come down. And at that point, I'd read comics as a kid, but I'd never owned any. I didn't have any at all. And so then finally I gave in to his pestering. But now we're talking 94, 95 probably. So a couple of years had gone by. So I kind of missed the ground floor of, of Image and kind of their explosion. But I am a product of comic collecting in the 90s for sure. So I have a lot of useless garbage books that are worth zero.
I didn't know that Ted was set up in the Muse, because I remember him on George Street.
Yeah, he moved there. But
he always used to tell me that I was in the top 5 as far as first people to get pull lists with him.
Okay.
So I don't know how long he was in the Muse, or did he just not have pull lists back then? Or
I think he was still mostly a card shop. It was still pretty much just dealing, and that's why the name was Big League, right? Because that's what he was. He was just a card shop. And then when kids started buying comics, he was like, "Ooh, comics! All right, I can do comics."
I remember submitting a design to him when he changed his
the logo,
his shop name.
Yep.
And I drew a rocket ship flying over a planet, right? And I lost because I have no artistic ability. But the guy who did win stole a piece of Corel draw clip art that was of a spaceship revolving around a planet.
Yeah.
So I'm like, wow. If I had known, I could have just submitted Corel Draw clip art as a logo and get away with it.
Yeah. I see. I remember the name change, but I don't remember the draw for the logos. I remember Tony talking about, you know, how he kind of felt cheated on the logo stuff too. But I do remember that.
Well, I just submitted mine as a design idea, telling Ted, you know, maybe get somebody with some actual artistic talent to spruce it up. And then when I saw the rocket ship, I was like, oh, you used my design and somebody fixed it up and stuff. And he's like, oh no, this guy says he drew it on his own. It's just similar to yours. I'm like, oh, okay. You know, I don't know, a year later, 2 years later, I'm looking in Corel Draw and there's that piece of clip art right there in the Corel Draw book. I'm like,
yeah,
come on.
Yeah, he did it in high school or whatever.
Yeah. But it is what it is. I mean,
yeah,
like I was there. Todd McFarlane, Spider-Man, Jim Lee, X-Men, Rob Liefeld, and New Mutants / X-Force.
Yep.
Well, we were there. We were reading those books, right?
Yep.
So when all of a sudden there's this announcement, Image Comics, all your top creators are leaving Marvel, and I'm like secretly going, yes.
Yes.
Down with the evil empire. Down. Even though I really like your Spider-Man book and your X-Men book, down with the evil empire. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm not. But we got all excited, right? Because like all these creators are like starting up another company. And yeah, there's been some independent companies, Eclipse and all that other stuff. And you know, there was some other comic book companies, but realistically, it was just DC and Marvel. Like, realistically, until these guys decided to skyrocket. And I think at one point in time, didn't Image exceed DC Comics' sales? And it was number 2.
That I'm not 100% sure of, but I did kind of do a smidge of research before we hit tonight, and they did numbers like in their first and second year of business that are like absolutely unheard of for small companies.
Oh yeah, it's bonkers.
It was just bananas. Like I think they printed something like 1 million copies of Spawn #1, and like at a time when small press did not do that. I mean, those were like Spider-Man and Amazing or Uncanny X-Men numbers. Those weren't like, you know, or Superman. Those were major characters numbers that that had. It blew my mind when I was like, when I finally tripped onto Spawn, and I'm like, what is this?
Like for a little while there, I don't have exact numbers in front of me, but Uncanny X-Men, like a regular issue of Uncanny X-Men, not a #1, not a variant cover, not a relaunch, but a regular plain Jane issue of Uncanny X-Men was top 10 in the sales charts, right? At the very top of the sales charts, #1 for just regular issues. That's unheard of now.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to be some kind of a special crossover or relaunch or something in order to make it into those numbers. But Uncanny X-Men was always up there. Then all of a sudden, Image comes along, and you know, some of those books. But granted, there's a lot of hype with the issue #1s and stuff, but some of the books were flying off the shelves. Like these guys, these Image creators were making money hand over fist.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they were like, I don't know,
top 7 artists of that time. Would you say? Right?
Yeah, they were massive creators. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, we lost Chris.
Somebody tell Christina Chris's to stop streaming. I was gonna say Friends, but it's not Friends, is it? It's Big Bang Theory.
We can hear you. I don't know how or why.
It's chunking the internet. You futzed out there,
Yeah.
Chris. You just kind of you went.
That's the internet. No, not Christine. It's our Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I'm teasing.
Sorry.
It's all good.
Sorry.
But yeah, like Chris said, like those were major creators doing major work, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we're leaving. And there's no need to rehash the whole process. I mean, anybody that's listening to this show knows Image, knows the history. They know, Todd McFarlane going across the street to DC saying, hey, we're all leaving Marvel, with no intention to sign up for DC, and just kind of like making the DC guys go, really? You guys are coming here? And he's like, no, we're not coming here either.
Yeah. I wonder if that was more of a try to see if they could pull any of the major talent from DC. Like, I think what they were really trying to do was turn the comic industry on its head. Like, they were really trying to just get away from like the Stan Lee and like just pumping out the characters, and then 10 years, 20 years, 50 years down the road, the character is exactly the same, hasn't changed. But the people who created it, who poured their blood, sweat, and tears into that character, gave it the backstory, did all of that stuff, got diddly squat. I mean, they got their hourly paid, or whatever they were getting per page, and that was it. They created some of these like fantastic characters, and they got nothing for it.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, I mean, things were changing at that time. Like Rob Liefeld has a piece of Deadpool. He's got a piece of Cable. Now, I don't know, maybe that was retroactively given to him. It wasn't at the time. But, it was beginning sort of to change, kind of. I mean, you see those news articles today about how, somebody got more money in residuals for a DC character being on a CW show than it was Thanos. Oh, how can I be brain farting on who created Thanos? Oh, I feel like shit poop. Anyways. He says he got more money for creating a secondary character in a Batman movie or TV show than he did for all of Thanos, for all of the Avengers from Marvel.
Yeah.
You keep that stuff up. There's no wonder all your talent took off and formed another company.
Exactly. And but what I thought was kind of neat was they didn't exactly publish everything under the Image branch. So each of the guys had their own, I almost called it a label. They had their own
studios.
Yeah, studio under that. So like, there was Top Cow, which that one was pretty cool. I read Darkness from Top Cow. I really enjoyed that one. And what was Todd's call? Or Todd's was obviously Todd McFarlane. I meant Rob Liefeld. What did he call his?
Extreme Studios.
Yeah, and then he changed it to Awesome Comics.
Well, that was different. That was
that was different.
Yeah. So he had Extreme. Like, what it was every single creator got together for this Image cooperative. Basically, we're going to have a common brand. We're all going to release under this brand, and we're going to pool marketing resources and stuff like this, but we're really, all of us are doing this 100% independently. A little bit of money from each comic we sell will go to Image's overhead, but realistically, we keep our own books, we keep our own accounting. We have, there's no interference or input from the head company, although that changed with the Todd father. But so everybody had their own imprint. I think Jim Lee's was always called Wildstar. Was it not? Wildstorm?
Wildstorm,
yeah. Todd's was like, whatever was it, McFarlane Productions or Todd McFarlane Comics or
McFarlane Productions, yeah.
Todd's Toys was the first name of his toy company. Can't remember what Jim Valentino's was and Eric Larson, sorry. But yeah.
Eric Larson's was Highbrow Entertainment.
Oh, there you go.
And Jim Valentino was Shadowline.
Yeah. And then Mark Silvestri with Top Cow.
Top Cow. Yeah.
Yeah. I keep listening to the Rob Liefeld. Okay. I try to listen to the Rob Liefeld podcast. I do my best, but he, like, you know, we're not exactly pros at this, so I shouldn't be throwing rocks in glass rooms. But oh my goodness, I think I should give him the name of my ADHD doctor, and he can give him the same meds that I'm on, because like his speaking style, he'll say the same word 6 times as he kind of sits there trying to, collect his thoughts and stuff like this. It's hilarious, but that's aside the point. When he was starting to run into problems / creative differences with some of the interference with the Image team, and he's like, you know, this isn't what we originally signed up for. That's when he formed Awesome Entertainment as a totally separate
okay.
Yeah. And he just started moving all of his books to that. It was originally supposed to be for his licensed comics like Battlestar Galactica and stuff. And then when things kind of hit the fan there, he's just like, okay, well, all my books are going here and you guys can pound salt.
Yeah, because I bought Chapel #1 because so that was always a big bone of contention for me. It's really cool that they had creator owned stuff, and that they shared the characters back and forth, and they allowed each other to create characters and put them into books, and then gave them key roles. So in Spawn, the person that actually kills Al Simmons is Chapel, who is this crazy, wacky, amazingly fun guy. I really like Chapel as a character. And he was owned by Rob Liefeld. And so by the time that the movie got licensed in 97, Rob Liefeld had been canceled, I guess, because at that he was the CEO of Image Comics, and he got canceled because apparently he was using some of the funds from Image. Now this could just be, you know, conjecture or whatever, but he was using some of the funds from Image to fund his own comics.
Wow, you see,
so that's where it gets sticky. Everybody's got their own little story about what the fallout was about.
Yeah, but, like if you follow Rob's side of things, they had an arrangement where every single book published under the Image label would give money, and I think you named a number and I can't remember what it is, to Image for overhead. And Todd was publishing Spawn.
Yeah.
So he was donating 1 integer of funds.
Yeah.
Jim Valentino had Shadowhawk. Eric Larson had Savage Dragon. Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld, on the other hand, had a stable of books.
Yeah.
So Liefeld's like, I can't remember. Again, I don't remember the number, so this is just all arbitrary. But it's like, you know, Todd's adding 1 integer into the Image coffers. I'm adding 12.
Yeah.
Jim Lee's adding 12. And Todd's adding 1. And Todd's acting like he owns Image, dictating what we can and can't do as Image creators. And he's like, you know, hey, dude, like, come on. And then there was some sort of an overpayment glitch that happened. And I don't know. I hear Todd's side of it, and then I hear Rob Liefeld's side of it. And Rob Liefeld's seems more coherent / consistent / more logical. But I'm sure the truth is somewhere in the middle, as it usually is.
Yeah, that's usually what happens.
You know.
But because of that fallout, they had to create a new character that kills Al Simmons.
Yeah.
And for me, that kind of, like, as a guy who at that point was like Spawn crazy. I mean, I had every book that was being published with Spawn on it. I was buying back issues like crazy. So that it was the one thing for me that was like, creator owned is not all that it's cracked up to be, especially when you're trying to do the character lendovers and stuff. That, like, it was the biggest part of Spawn's origin was that these two guys, they were buddies, they were best friends. And so that was more of the backstab that was like, you know, the big thing. And it was lost in the movie because Jessica Priest was just somebody they created a kind of last minute to fill that job.
Yeah, it's again, Rob in his podcast goes on and on about it. How in the beginning, you know, they're young. They're like in their 20s, and they're just a bunch of friends that got together, and they'd have, you know, the company was basically formed on a couch in somebody's apartment and stuff like this. So when it came time to like sharing and this and that, it was insanely loosey goosey. It was like, hey, do you mind if I throw this guy into my book for a few issues? Oh gosh, no, go ahead. You know, and then later on, you know, it wasn't like a contract where it says, well, this character was in this book for 3 issues, so I get one of your characters for my book for 3 issues. No, it was like, can I throw your guy in a story? Sure, no problem. And it ran an issue or 4 issues or whatever, right? So it's all super loosey goosey, and as long as everything's friendly and stuff like this, loosey goosey handshake works great.
Yeah,
you know, until all of a sudden, you know, Angela, Tony Twist, Chapel, like all these other, you know, all of a sudden it's like, hey, you named a character after me. I'm a hockey player, and you named a character after me, and you say that you named after me. Well, where's my money? Where's my piece?
Yeah,
where's my piece?
Money,
you know?
money.
But I mean, the same poop kind of happens everywhere else. I'm still waiting for my Micronauts, Rom, Godzilla from Marvel, omnibuses, and they're never going to come. You know, because the licensing ended and this and that. Marvel creates all these cool Star Wars stories, and it's like, well, you own that character because you created that character, but the rest of the Super Star Wars characters are ours. So as a result, you can't reprint this and blah blah blah. And I think some trade paperbacks, like you said, the Chapel one, any compendium that was released, did they edit Chapel out?
No, he probably just had to pay Liefeld at that point, but he didn't want to pay him for the movie.
Because I think they just skipped the issue that had Angela right out of any compendium for a while, didn't they?
For like 25 years.
Yeah.
I missed that. Who was she named after?
Angela was that angel. Oh, Chris knows better than I do.
And Medieval Spawn. They were both created by Neil Gaiman, right?
Oh, okay.
I got his name right. Perfect. I always get his name wrong. And so they were created by him, but he didn't own the rights to the characters. And then he took Todd to court to fight for his characters because it was a creator-owned business. So then he ended up selling Angela to Marvel. I guess that was just kind of like the ultimate slap in the face on that one. But I whatever the issue was, I guess Todd's over it now, or they settled for, you know, he had to make a one-time payment or something. I'm not sure how it all boiled down, but anyways, they've now reprinting that issue, so everything is copacetic.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, for like 25 years, anything, all of the books, as soon as they got into that range, I think it's 9. As soon as they got to 9, they just didn't print it.
Like the whole idea that a character from the early issues of Spawn ended up being a Guardian of the Galaxy. It's just like, what happened?
Yeah.
Todd, the anti-Marvel guy who like almost cripples the company by splitting with a whole bunch of other creators. All of a sudden, a character in one of his books is in the Guardians of the Galaxy. What?
Oh, I'm sure that there was more to that story than.
Oh yeah, and it was all tied in. There was all sorts of. I guess Todd at some point in time got the rights to Marvel Man, the old British homage, I'm going to say, but I could be wrong because maybe Miracle Man, Marvel Man in England came before Captain Marvel, Shazam. I don't recall exactly, but there were some rights there involved that Todd thought he had some of it. Alan Moore thought he had some of it. Neil Gaiman thought he had some of it. And then, of course, because they're fighting and scrapping over that, all of a sudden Neil gets, you know, if you're going to be, I'll use the term pissy, if you're going to be like that about Angela, about Miracle Man, I'm going to be that way about Angela, and lawsuit, counter lawsuit.
Yeah.
25 years later, I did see in an interview somewhere that Neil Gaiman said that he did those Marvel 1602 books strictly to get money to pay for the lawsuit for Miracle Man, for Marvel Man. And just to make some money to allocate towards this lawsuit. And so yeah, it was kind of fun. But I mean, I don't know about you, but I was there at the ground floor, like I said. So Spawn issues 1 through 12, I got those. I didn't go Shadowhawk for some reason. Well, that was his name, right? Shadowhawk.
Yeah. I have some,
Valentinos?
but not all of them.
I did get Savage Dragon. Youngblood, Wildcats, but then it kind of fizzled out. Like I read I think Youngblood was like a mini series first, and I read that, but I didn't follow up with Youngblood afterwards. Wildcats I read for a long time. Spawn,
that's how Savage Dragon started too. It was a mini series, 3 issues, and then they started with the regular one, which is why it's so far behind Spawn.
I think Shadowhawk had 2 miniseries before they launched into a 3rd full series, if I'm not mistaken.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And then I read the Savage Dragon miniseries, but I didn't pick up the rest of it. I just don't understand why, because I thought they were pretty good.
Yeah.
Obviously art over story.
Yeah.
Action over drama, but they were good books.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they were done by artists, right? Like,
yeah. I mean, that was literally the era of the artist dominating the industry, right?
Yeah.
We seem to be switching around where it seems to be the writer is dominating the industry now and driving things,
Yeah.
People like Scott Schneider and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then you get this dude, like in my background here, Backlash. I think I can't remember if he was a Wildcat or I think he was a Wildcat.
I think
something like that. And there was just something about him that I was like, you know what? I just like the character. And so I have like the entire series, just loved it. It was fantastic. It was a lot of fun. But so I was like, backgrounds. There we go.
Yeah. I liked Grifter. Even to the point where I read the New 52 Grifter relaunch.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. But I do have a question, though, because, again, like I said, we were all there. Image, right? Okay, great. Hype, all this stuff. It's kind of very, very much pre-internet. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I got my first connection to the internet, I want to say 98, maybe 99. I might have to look back because it might have even been earlier, but that might have been a BBS, not the internet. Oh gosh, 96? Not sure. Anyways, but very, very pre-internet. Like we're talking Netscape 2.0.
Yeah.
Like 90% of the people on the internet have no idea what Netscape is. So there wasn't a lot of the internet hype that you get nowadays, right? Like we pretty much know the plot of every comic book that's coming out 3 months in advance.
Yeah.
You didn't have that back then. But what we did have was Wizard magazine.
Yes, Wizard.
Right? Monthly publication, Wizard magazine, talking about comic books and all that sort of stuff and what's coming and stuff. A little bit hipper and flasher than the Comic Book Buyer's Guide newspaper that I also used to read.
Yeah.
Right? A little more flashy, but it was always top 10 artists this month, top 10 books this month.
Yeah.
Books you should be reading this month. And it was all Wizard. Like it was all Image all the time.
Yeah.
Like, were they paying Wizard a hype fee, like a promotional fee to pump it? Or was Wizard just like-minded individuals in editorial that really dug, Image Comics? Because it was Image everywhere in Wizard.
I'm not sure exactly. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe they were kind of giving them a kick out, a kickback on hype my crap, please. Or maybe they were just noticing a trend. Like, I mean, for Spawn to have sold that many books, and I'm sure that Savage Dragon was up there, and I'm sure Wildcats was up there, like, and Youngblood. I'm sure that those issues were just literally flying off the shelves. And so I'm like, I remember when I first started to buy some of the Spawn back issues, like the price on some of them was insane. Like the issues for, what was it, like 19 to 25, that those, that run in there, something happened at the printers and they came out backwards or something. Like some of them, there was a low print run on them and the issues came out not in order. They were all frigged up. And so those issues were like 20 and 30 bucks a piece, like in the 90s when I was buying them. And they're not that now, but I mean, you can, a couple of years ago, before they started hyping the Spawn movie, you could buy them for like, I don't know, $6 or $8 at a Comic-Con. But the Spawn movie has changed the price on the books, and I hate it. It sucks. I'm still missing a bunch. It's expensive. So fair.
Yeah, it's I mean, there was definitely the speculator market kind of kicked in. You had people buying into the Image Comics hype and stuff that weren't necessarily comic book collectors. The skateboard community was big because the boys were all from, you know, California and Burbank and stuff, and lines out the door for signings for premiere issues. Liefeld used to go nuts, and like he made was it the Youngblood spaceship car? They made like a life-size model of it for Comic-Con or something like this, and there was
Spawn had a drag car.
Yeah, Spawn with his drag car, and it was cartoons, and everybody was trying to make a cartoon. Like there was a Gen 13 cartoon.
Yeah,
there was obviously the Spawn cartoon.
Wildcats
had a cartoon. Did Youngblood have a cartoon or just a pilot, or was Gen 13 the pilot? Anyways, I mean, you know, they're hyping left, right, and center. But yeah, I mean, the stuff was just everywhere, everywhere. Wizard half issues. Here's your Wizard exclusive Wildcats issue 1/2.
Yeah,
you know, only bundled with Wizard Comics. And
that became the big thing, right? Like with Wizard, it wasn't so much about what you were reading. It was all about the version of the ash can that you got. Like whether it was Dark Joker or X-Men 2099, or, you know, like, what did you get, the gold, did you get the regular? Like it was a fight to try and, you know, get the Wizard books, right? So I mean, they played that one well too. That was well played.
Yeah, exactly. It says here that Wizard Magazine's old website, www.wizardworld.com, was home to a lively internet forum community in the late 1990s. So in the latter part of the 19th century, yeah, like it's just, I mean, but it faded for me. It dwindled. I stopped. Like the 1990s and the 2000s was like a pretty dark period, the later 1990s, and definitely because of Image, in my opinion. You know, all of a sudden, all the DC characters had pouches everywhere.
Yeah,
you know, you got all these obviously artists trying to mimic McFarlane, Lee, Silvestri, Liefeld on X-Men.
Yeah,
you know, like you just got these really weird, like even was it Superman got like some kind of a funky suit, and or no, it was Booster Gold. Booster Gold got some kind of a big, huge suit with all these pouches and stuff like this, trying to look like an Image comic. But then Image went nuts too. I mean, do you remember Black and White? It was like an Image book where there was a girl in white and a guy in black, and they were like some kind of strategic commando thing. It was like Cloak and Dagger crossed with Image.
Yeah.
And it's like I remember, I gotta tell that story too. But I remember going into a comic shop, right? And you're looking in the bargain bins.
Yeah.
And it's just full of, like I said, black and white, cat and dog, brigade.
Boof.
What was the brigade? It wasn't Chapel, it was some other guy. He kind of looked like Cable, but I think he was like the
Prophet?
leader. Prophet. Yeah, Prophet was Stephen Platt, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
But I can't remember.
Anyways, like they just oversaturated everything. They just went nuts.
Yeah.
And of course, it imploded just like the rest of the comic book industry did.
Yeah.
They call it the dreaded 90s, where everything kind of just went speculator nuts and everything went down, and comic shops were closing left, right, and center and stuff like this. And
yeah,
it was kind of, I'm just trying to remember what did I actually read back then? I'm pretty sure I was still reading Batman, because that was the whole Azrael.
Oh yeah.
Sword of Azrael era.
I like that area. I liked, I guess I'm really a child of 90s comics. Like, give me a guy with like insane armor, a big sword, and a bad attitude, and I bought it. Azrael, bought it.
Azrael was good. I love that.
Yeah.
But like I said,
even liked
some
him
of the
as
stuff.
Batman. Like I even liked him as Batman. I mean, most people didn't like him as Batman because they're like, "That's not Batman. Batman wouldn't do that." And I'm like, "No, but that's way cooler." Look at him stab that guy through with the claws. So
yeah, there you go. I'm
watch
just
him
gonna
punch Robin out.
I'm just gonna pull up all the comics that came out January 1999 here.
Oh, okay.
And we got A Next, not the Avengers. A Next.
Oh.
With I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is Luke Cage on the cover, and he's got a do-rag, he's got the harness with these big huge bolts on it.
Nice.
And he's got the Eric Larson exaggerated square jaw, and you can't see his feet because nobody could draw feet in the 90s. And so that was A Next, the Avengers Next. What else did we have here? Amazing Spider-Man looked kind of, weird back then. Definitely the Batman, the Azrael here I'm seeing. Some of the cool stuff that did come out, though, is like Batman Beyond is that era.
Yeah.
Birds of Prey. Black Panther got relaunched.
Yeah.
Trying to see if I can see Image. Captain America got like an armored suit too.
Yeah.
Wasn't just Booster Gold.
Spider-Man did too. The green armor. Do you remember that? It was only just for one issue, but he had the green armor. Iron Man made it for him.
That's right. But it was what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fun.
Well, that's kind of the whole thing, right? Like, I kind of pulled up a list of some of the Image books that I bought back then, and I can definitely see kind of a pattern of stuff that pretty much anything Spawn put out, I bought.
Yeah.
And then like the Creech. I don't know if you ever read that.
I do remember the Creech. I didn't read it, but I do remember it.
The Creech was awesome. And then Darkness. I really liked Darkness. I was kind of sad. They canceled it at issue 40, but it was in the middle of an arc, and I was like, well, where's 41?
Exactly.
I think I was buying it at I can't remember if I'd switched over to Jeff's yet, or whether I was still buying at Hatton's Funhouse, because when Ted kind of shifted his stuff across the road, and man, I really dated myself there. I bet you nobody remembers friggin' Hatton's Funhouse.
Yeah, I remember Hatton's.
Yeah, but
here's November 94. Right.
Yeah.
This is what was on the bookshelf November 1994 from Image. Bad Rock.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. Battlestone. I don't remember a Battlestone.
No.
Issue number 2 of Black and White. Bloodstrike.
Yeah.
Brigade. Strike Force. Deadly Duo. Deathblow. I totally forgot about Deathblow.
Yeah.
I love Deathblow.
Yeah,
that was
Deathblow. Yeah,
that was like a cross between Punisher and Deathstroke, and that was a fun book. Dooms 4.
I don't remember that one.
No idea. There's your Freak. Hell Shock. I remember getting the first issue of Hell Shock.
I liked Hell Shock.
New Men, Stormwatch, Supreme, Alan Moore.
Okay. Yeah.
He was doing some stuff. Team 7, the original Team 7.
Oh, I love Team 7. Did you ever read Team 7 crossing over with Weapon X?
No, I did not.
They have at least one trade paperback, like it's just like the square bound, and it's really cool because it's kind of everybody before they get their superpowers. So you've got like Backlash here, and he's hanging out with Logan and Sabretooth and Maverick all before they become like these crazy characters that are awaiting them. And so it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I totally can't believe, and Youngblood and Wildcats, but I totally looking at the list, can't believe that I completely forgot about Wetworks.
Yeah.
Wetworks. I loved Wetworks from Mark Silvestri.
Yeah.
That was a good book for the first little while. Again, I probably didn't go much past the first year of a lot of these books. Like I stuck it out to issue 12, and then I can't remember, like, was money tight? And I just didn't read a lot of books. Was my interest shifting ever so slightly, and I wasn't reading a lot like they are like now, with my 4 issues in my pull list. But something was going on around that time period that I just wasn't getting a lot of comics.
Well, I think part of it is kind of what you were alluding to. It was like overload, like X-Men #1 came out and it had like 5 different covers, and but it wasn't just X-Men. It was like X-Men was coming out with 5 different covers, and then the next one was coming out, it had 3 different covers, and this one had 2 different covers. And then you could order like the newsstand and the direct edition. So it came with 2 different covers, or it came with one that had like sparkles on it, and the other one was just a plain, or it was die cut or holographic. It was just like, it became so like, oh my goodness, like it was so gimmicky that you were like, I don't even want to read another comic book. And honestly, it was probably, I think I'm probably when I hit college, so you're around 2000, 2001, I was just buying from Mile High Comics on their auction, because they had their own auction on their website, and I was just buying back issues. That's all I was doing at that point. Like I didn't have a regular pull list. I didn't really like going to Jeff's at that time. It was way far out of the way. Like he was downtown, and I was nowhere near there, and so it was just like and then then they were they amalgamated Eyeball Soup with their the building up here on Park Hill Road, and
that's
so
where
I was like,
that's where I first started getting comics from Jeff's, was when he was on Park Hill.
Yeah.
Now I used to get hockey cards from Jeff's when he was behind that
down
spot
below
in the basement.
Yeah.
I used to buy collector packs of hockey cards to need it, got it, want it.
Yeah.
But the first time I had a pull list at Jeff's, he was upstairs.
Yeah.
Out there on Park Hill. But just before we touch on, because I can't believe we've already been on this for 45 minutes. But before we touch on the next phase of Image, the other thing that I thought was really cool, not only did they have crossovers in and amongst Image, all of a sudden you had this era of crossovers with Marvel and DC.
Yes.
Batman and Spawn. What was it? You said Team 7 and Weapon X?
Yeah.
Backlash and Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man and somebody else, and Spider-Man and somebody else. Like,
oh,
those
they
were
did Darkness and the Hulk, and they did like oh my goodness, pretty much they crossed over as many people as they could. They were trying, I think that everybody kind of realized the comic book stuff was tanking, so they're like, man, we all need to help each other out, and people just aren't buying it.
Yeah.
So
now it was quite obvious, like after the first few years of the Image hype, things started kind of changing, and everybody started flooding the market with all these books. Something was going on at Image where all of a sudden like weird creators like Alan Moore were suddenly coming to Image to publish a book. Mike Grell brought Shaman's Tears to Image. We had Bone being published by Image. We had Astro City from Alan Moore. A Distant Soil was being printed at Image. So all of a sudden we're starting to see the beginning of what Image became today.
Yeah.
So the main creators have their superhero, Rock'em Sock'em Cowboy books, but all of a sudden we got like Image is beginning to be the place to get kind of, I'm not going to say independent, but more
self-published for sure.
More adult type Vertigo epic from Marvel, comics. Like it suddenly started to be the place to be. So like I said, as of I'm looking here, October 96, we got, like I said, Bone, and we got Distant Soil, we got Astro City from Kurt Busiek, Max. Like Max was not a traditional superhero comic book.
No.
Right? It just started kind of changing to where we get to. I'm not sure when it exactly officially had happened, but nowadays Image is the place to take your independent book, creator-owned book, and get published. You don't have to be a partner at Image to get your book done at Image. So by the time we're getting into 2000, we got like the Blair Witch book was being published by Image. Powers from who was Powers? Fleming, something.
I don't know. You got me.
Quick,
Google.
They made a Powers TV show. What the heck was the? Thank God Chris dropped off because bad internet, because he would have been like screaming at me, Brian Michael Bendis. Brian Michael Bendis. Yeah, Brian Michael Bendis's Power, but it was drawn by Michael Avon Oeming. That's where I was getting the Oeming. But Michael Bendis's Powers.
Yeah.
And it's literally gotten to the point where that's what Image is. If you've got a cool book idea and you want to self-publish it, you go to Image, you use Image's marketing, you got to pay for everything.
Yeah.
The Kirkman era of Image is a little bit later on, but Robert Kirkman on many podcasts is like, the deal at Image was you put up all the costs and you just got to use Image for entrance into the Diamond distributing catalog, and you got some promotional work and stuff like this, but you pretty much had to like bring the money to pay for the book.
And that's not such a terrible idea. I mean,
no, not at all.
I mean, like, as somebody who's trying to self-publish our own novels, it's pretty much like that anyways, right?
Yeah.
Like it's as long as you can pay to play, it's you can print as many books as you want, but it's on your own dime. But and I think that helps keep Image kind of fresh and new too, right? Like, because they just keep coming up with they just keep letting people do it. And I see like they always have more number ones than anybody else in previews, because they're willing to let people take a chance because it's not their money.
Yeah, exactly.
So
now, mind you, they still have some criteria.
Oh yeah.
They want to see a completed miniseries before they let you do it. They want to see tonally, does it fit in there, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, like, take a look at the top books from Image. As far as I don't know, everybody's got a top 10 list, and sometimes it means nothing because it's top 10 comics of all time, and they're all from 1995.
Yeah.
But Saga, Brian K. Vaughan, Fiona Staples, huge book.
Yeah.
Huge book, right? The Walking Dead, Elephant in the Room, Robert Kirkman. Robert Kirkman comes into Image, and all of a sudden The Walking Dead explodes like crazy to the point where they actually offer him an ownership package.
Yeah.
Juniper's Legacy. We just had a TV show about Juniper's Legacy. Invincible.
Yeah.
The cartoon that just came out. Like, Image kind of morphed itself out of that original idea, and I'm not sure who's responsible. Somebody like you said, Liefeld used to be the CEO, but I think Valentino became publisher for a bit. But I again, because I'm not 100% on it, but I want to say it was Eric Stevenson that kind of did everything, changed the way Image operates, and became more of, rather than this co-op of these independent artists, became the place to go for any independent comic book creator to get their books published under a banner.
Yeah, I don't know. It's been they definitely have their thumb on kind of what people want to read. I mean, they do have superhero books, but they also like dipped into other stuff that was nothing to do with superheroes. Like, I mean, I read 68, which I don't know if you ever read any of those books, but they're zombie books.
Yeah.
And fantastic, like Vietnam stories. And it's just a lot of fun. They're kind of grotesque and just amusing books. And so they don't just get stuck on like DC where everything has to be Batman, or Marvel where let's get Wolverine on the cover of every single book and it'll sell. They're like, well, like, let's give this a go. I mean, and people are buying space books, so let's let people run with their space stories. And it's kind of nice and a bit refreshing. And I think that's why they've kind of paved the way for a lot of these new companies like AWA and to kind of come out and have completely unrelated books, and people are interested in them. They've got big names behind the books and people are buying them.
AWA, Aftershock, our boys at Source Point Press, and Scout Comics. Just touching on all the buddies out there. But like Jeff Lemire's Royal City, like this, Image is just a premier publisher now. But they kind of haven't really changed that model, because again, even in the early days, Todd McFarlane had to put up all his costs to print Spawn. Eric Liefeld.
They're both going to be pissed at you. Eric
Larson and Rob Liefeld both had to publish, had to put up the money to publish their books from their studio, right? So the same thing with Jeff Lemire brings a mini series, says, hey, I want to print this. It does. Now, one thing that I have noticed over the years, though, is Dark Horse seems to be a very similar type mentality. They seem to be very similar in that. So you'll find books from Jeff Lemire at Image, and you'll find books from Jeff Lemire at Dark Horse. And it'd be really interesting to get somebody that has books at both publishers on the line and kind of ask them, what's the difference? What's the, why go with one and not the other? Like, how did that all work out? Or is it as simple as, I was sitting at a bar after a comic convention and the guy from Dark Horse was like, hey, you got anything you want to publish? I was like, yeah, sure, here. Like, I don't know, but
it's interesting but you're right. Like, I think part of what happened with Dark Horse is, honestly, they lost all their stable house. Right. Like, Marvel bought Lucasfilm and took all the Star Wars books. I think they let them publish for like 6 months or a year or something, and then they pulled it all back into the stable.
Like Dark Horse was huge on the licensing.
And then, Dark Horse had Aliens and Predator. And then now Marvel has that, and they pulled all that back out. And now they're pumping out their own Aliens and stuff books, Aliens and Predator books.
Even Conan was at Dark Horse.
And so they've lost kind of their big, like, stable house books, right? Like the ones that they were, these are our mainstays. And so what do they have? They have to go that route, right? Like, I kind of felt bad for Dark Horse. Like, that would be like somebody coming along and taking Spider-Man and the X-Men and Fantastic Four from Marvel and saying, hope you guys don't, hope you can stay in business,
That seems to have happened a couple of times in a bunch of different, like, that's the problem with licensed properties, right? Like, Boom had a bunch, IDW had a bunch, and now they seem to be losing them and stuff. I just saw somewhere that Marvel is pulling their kids line of books out from, I think it was IDW, wasn't it, that was publishing Marvel Adventures and Star Wars stuff. Like, if you're Disney and you own all this IP and you own a comic book company, why don't you license it all out? Bring it all in-house, like whatever. So I don't blame them, but no, I mean, I completely forgot the one story I had, my favorite Image Comics story. So I'm at a toy show in Hamilton, Ontario, of all places. And when you set up at a comic convention or show, you get to look around before everybody else does, right? As a dealer. And I noticed this one guy had a few long boxes underneath his table. Something, hey, long boxes, comics, what's this? He goes, 5 cents. 5 cents. Take the whole box, 5 cents each. And I'm like, okay, well, what's in here? Open it up, pulled the one box, threw it on the table. No word of a lie. An entire long box, no bags, no boards, of Wildcats #1.
Oh my goodness.
The whole thing packed. And this is dealer fresh.
Yeah.
This stuff was not on the shelf. This stuff was not in a spinner rack. This was not in anybody else's hands. Full. So I'm like, you're gonna have to pay me 5 cents a book to take this away, because once you get one copy of Wildcats, well, why do you need a second one?
Yeah.
So I pull out the other long box, I throw it up on the table, rip the cover off, one entire long box of Youngblood #1. Same condition. No bags, no boards, back to back. He's like, I got basement full of this stuff. 5 cents a book. Come on over after the show. 5 cents a book. I'm like, I'm not even looking at the other long boxes you have under the table, let alone coming to your house. So like, I guess maybe the hype and stuff, people overbought. That's nothing new. I mean, they do that nowadays, right, for variants and stuff. But I just guffaw a little bit at the state and condition of some of the overhyped million. Like, you printed 1 million copies. 8 million copies of, what was it, Uncanny X-Men #1, or was it
something
Spider-Man
like
was 8 million, and the other one was 6. Like, there's a lot out there. No banging on quality of the book. There's just a lot of them out there.
Yeah. And I think that was really what kind of killed the market at that time, was the overabundance of books that shops had. Like, I remember Ted was like, because I co-op there, and he's like, why don't you go downstairs and like tidy up the long boxes downstairs? And I kid you, no word of a lie, he had half a long box, so 120 issues of Spawn #15, the first appearance of Medieval Spawn. Like, and like, what are you gonna do with them? Like, I mean, and if he brought them up and sold them, he would lose the money on the ones that he was trying to sell. So I get it. Like, but how many guys? And that was just like, and he wasn't even a big shop, really. I mean, he was just a small shop. So how did he end up with 125 of these crazy books? And you could just about imagine, like, if they were printing off 1 million copies, like, how many shops had 150 of them, 200 of them, just a long box full of the same book.
Oh yeah. Like, I've seen that YouTube video of the guy who's got an entire short box of New Mutants '98.
Oh yeah.
Because they were printed in massive volumes compared to what books are printed today, or what books were even printed back in the day, right? Like, there's a reason why there's a dozen or so super Action Comics #1. Sure, they printed a whack of them, but kids threw them out and recycled them and rolled them up and put their chocolate milk on them as coasters and stuff like this. They weren't bagging and boarding everything.
No, and 90s was definitely the age of bagging and boarding. Like, that was the, oh, look at this, it's pristine. I never read this. I bought one to read and one to store. And there's collections out there in basements, like in boomers' basements, and they're just sitting there, pristine books. And you know, you get the occasional guy selling stuff on Kijiji or whatever, and he's like, "Oh, buy my collection," and you're looking at it and you're like, "Why would I?" Like,
Yeah,
I already have that book.
to me, Image Comics heralded the end of the boasting that you could sit there and say, I buy every single Marvel comic that gets released every month, or I buy every single DC comic that gets released every month. It just kind of ended. You know, there's just so much on the shelf. Like, I can't remember, a couple of years ago, Marvel 250 issues a month of comics and stuff. Anyways, unfortunately, we're completely out of time. Somehow we stretch Image Comics into an hour. Tune in next week when hopefully there's more than two of us, because we started with three. Chris?
I don't know where he went. I don't know.
Christine got mad at him because we were cracking jokes. Beat him over the head with a rolling pin. Nah, I'm teasing. She's a lovely lady. But next week we said the topic was going to be licensed comics, movie tie-ins, television tie-ins, and I know Adam's going to pull out his Waterworld comics and his Highlander comics for sure. So tune in for that. Other than that, www.heykidscomics.ca, and live on the radio and on the podcast. Hit the website. All the details are there. Thank you very much and have a great week.
You have been listening to the Hey Kids Comics radio show broadcast through the facilities of Trent Radio on 92.7 CFFF-FM in Peterborough, Ontario, and available as a downloadable podcast at www.heykidscomics.ca and at www.firstcomicsnews.com. Promotional consideration for the show was provided by no one. Are you kidding me? We couldn't get advertisers if we tried. Wardrobe for our hosts was provided by Joe Nerds in Whitby, Ontario. They don't know that fact, but that is where we get 90% of our clothes from. No animals were harmed in the making of this radio show. Marty tried, but allergies won't let him get too close to Sam's cats. The views and opinions expressed by Sam are solely his own and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the rest of the hosts, as we all like the Walking Dead TV show. The Hey Kids Comics radio show is a Quinn Martin production and copyright Hey Kids Comico. Rebroadcasting in part or in whole of this show is forbidden, but really, who would want to anyway?
Level check for Eugene Levy CFFF promo. Take 3.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Good level?
Yep.
Bobby Bittman here. I always listen to Trent Radio 92.7. I love this guy, really do.
You do one more of those?
Sure. What was wrong with that one?
Nothing. I just was, the level was a little high.
Okay. Hi, this is Bobby Bittman. When I'm in the Kawarthas, I listen to Trent Radio 92.7 FM.